report details how advertising through television transforms strangers to your product into acquaintances, and acquaintances into friends, and friends into customers. You could almost say, as a result, that television puts into every living room a selling machine.
What the?
Oh.
John, what the hell? Where were you?
I was in the bathroom in the jury room with I got to see his name, Joe Sweeney.
Joe, yeah.
John, this is show business, and you need what's the first word in show business? Just you got to show up, okay?
Let's go up on time.
All right. Anyway, let's go into the intro and perhaps cut this part out for the when we post it as an audio.
Relax. Welcome to Kinescope, everybody. It's time again for us to take a look at one of the great live television performances. John Sutras here, Gabe Hardman here, Ian Brill. This is a classic, and it's truly one of my favorite plays, as well as films, television shows, radio plays. Even last year, there was a Zoom production of this one. Really? It's 12 Angry Men, everybody. This was, of course, written by Reginald Rose and directed by Franklin Schaffner. And it's an all-star cast, even this original 1954.
September 20th, 1954. Reginald Rose is one of those, basically, Patty Chayefsky, Rod Serling, and Reginald Rose are kind of the three-person Mount Rushmore of live TV dramatic writers, playwrights, and their signature shows are with Chayefsky it's Marty, and then this one 12 Angry Men by Reginald Rose, and then Patterns that we covered in our first episode by Rod Serling, and these are kind of the tent poles of that whole era, and and this one is probably in a lot of ways it's as a play, as a piece of drama, it's survived quite a bit better than the other two have. And even though people don't really think of Reginald Rose in the way that they think about Patty Chayefsky or Serling, because those two guys kind of went on to stuff that's a little bit more, maybe a little bit more notable after this era. But this is absolutely one of the best. It's great stuff. And we're gonna have to talk about the this version of it versus the 1957 version versus the 1997, all of that stuff, right? But just starting it off, Ian Brill, what did you think about the live TV version of this?
I was fascinated by it because I'm very familiar with the film. And so, the film is, 90 minutes. This is 50 minutes. And you really feel, I felt like you could see how it was cut to the bone, but actually the film was an expanded version of this. And so you saw how this moves just much quicker than the film. Again, I feel like I'm seeing things in hindsight because the film wasn't even on the table when this was just being made. It was just another episode of Westinghouse Playhouse
Studio One. Yeah.
Pardon me, it was Studio One.
It was Studio One. Yeah.
Yes.
And one thing I really appreciate, it took some time to get used to, but I appreciate it, is the fact that Robert Cummings is our juror number 8, who is the main character Henry Fonda plays, and he's in this one. He's so much more of a normal guy, which I think makes the role and the story as a whole much more fascinating.
Yeah,
I actually it's just much more unassuming kind of guy.
I think that's a great point, and I think that this is something that for me, when I had seen this live version of it before, in my head it was a little clunky. I knew the movie very well. And but revisiting this, I felt like there were a lot of interesting values in the TV version that I hadn't really taken into consideration until I had watched them back to back. And one of the big ones is weirdly Robert Cummings, who's not really somebody. Bob Cummings is not somebody that that you think of as like a really strong actor, much less a dramatic actor. He's a light comedic actor for the most part. He's in a couple of Hitchcock movies, Saboteur and Dial M for Murder. He was known for the Bob Cummings Show. Love that Bob. But like he, was like, he's just not somebody with a lot of gravitas generally. And weirdly, I kind of felt like that was a positive in this. Like the fact that he looks so square with his crew cut, the fact that he is that he he flubs a line like almost immediately, right? And
but
somehow
he flubs in a way that it sounds like a normal person would flub it.
Yeah, I feel like weirdly it's the high wire act of live television helped him feel natural and feel like, in a way that he could be a lot stiffer in films. But John, you haven't really had a chance to really talk about your opinion about this. So go ahead.
Well, honestly, first of all, this, I always refer to the Odd Couple script as a bulletproof script that fifth graders can perform it. 12 Angry Men is in that category as well. However, saying that, every one of the best actors, when they get to play this thing, bring themselves into the role, and it nuances each character because of it. And these are great examples of that in the live show and in the 57 film and the 97 film in particular. And I agree with you in terms of, I felt the same way, that I'm like, wow, Bob Cummings seems kind of awkward. Then you finish the hour, you realize how great he did, and he won the Emmy.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that exactly what you're saying about people being able to bring something very specific, their personality to these parts. The fact that they're not named, the fact that except for they're just all juror number whatever, right? And except for some little aspects, the European watchmaker or to some extent other people, they're not really specified. They're only specified. They're specified a little bit as types. They are kind of types, right? And so, but somehow, people coming to that and making adjustments within those types is what makes it interesting.
And they're even specified less in the TV version. That's the one of the many big differences, is that you don't get that personal, and it's not a complaint. In fact, I think it's some kind of more fascinating in the TV version. You don't have, for example, in the movie, there's a bit where the foreman talks about his job as a football coach. That's not in here. We're robbed, I suppose, of a monologue by Norman Feld, who plays the foreman in this version. But
Norman Feld in 1954. By the time we all knew him on Three's Company, Norman fell. Yes,
but there's
you might notice behind him Paul Douglas, Emmett from Mayberry and the Andy Griffith Show. But no, continue, Ian. Continue about the foreman role.
But it's just like how we don't get that in a way we don't get, because they're not as drawn out personally in this one. It just like how Robert Cummings in a way becomes more effective because he's more of an everyman. There's maybe more of a universality and maybe more of it's interesting that things are so anonymous and nonchalant in here. The fact that it becomes so dramatic in a way is more interesting. We learned so much little of the case.
I'm sorry, say that again, Ian.
We learn a lot less of the case than TV version 2. We never see, like, for example, racism is a big part of the story, but we never, in the TV version, we never learn who, these people that they talk about is.
And I think that that's actually also, to me, a big strength in it. I think that in the movie version, there is, there's a single shot of the, Latino kid who, who's accused, right? The defendant. And it gives you, and he's almost absurdly sympathetic looking, and and
him on the right, that's Amy Schumer on the left. We'll talk about Amy Schumer later.
Yeah.
And, and I actually thought in looking back at it this time, the fact that it was more sophisticated, that we are not given the specifics of, of race and whatever. It's, and it's just a lot more open that way. It is a lot more universal in that way, where we're only approaching this specific scene. We're not given all of the rest of it, right? Like, it's just about, like, it's not a courtroom drama, right? It's the other thing, right? It's
a jury room drama, I suppose.
Exactly. Courtroom dramas are boring, but I find this fascinating. John, go ahead.
And honestly, it's a trope that because of the strength of this story, gets replayed in many ways. We'll again go through the various film and TV adaptations, but also let's not forget Amy Schumer, The Odd Couple, so many sitcoms. Even Andy Griffith, Aunt B sat on a jury, and it never got.
Is that the one with Jack Nicholson in it?
Yes, it is. Absolutely, it is. But as we focus, and first of all, let's say so to describe the show for people who maybe haven't seen it. A boy is accused of killing his father, and these 12 jurors have to determine what seems to be an open and shut case. But as portrayed in the TV show by Bob Cummings and Henry Fonda in the film, and Jack Lemmon in the 90s film, that's Bob on the right. He still sees some doubt. The man on the left, that's Francois Tone. Francois Tone was a very big actor decades earlier, was still making character roles here, and is the chief dissenter that is like, come on, it's an open and shut case. He's guilty. And everyone else, for the most part, feels that way. But it's Cummings that is keeping them talking, because they need to be obviously unanimous to reach a verdict. And that's what the hour explores. And it's great because it really is this. They were likely in the room, despite us only seeing 50 minutes of it, for a lot longer of a period.
Although, apparently as written and kind of as you, when you look at the play itself, the commercial breaks even are not supposed to be elapsed time, right? When they go to the commercial break and they come back, they're like in the same place. So, I think that it actually is kind of intended to be almost real time.
I've got that scene right here. This is where Act 2 opens, with him ready to.
Right. I could not stop thinking about so they were frozen, standing there for the entire commercial break.
Yes, it's true.
Betty Furness talks about how great Westinghouse products are. Right. They're stuck.
And also, this is probably this violent altercation is probably a personal moment for Francois Tone, because he got in a notorious fight with Detour actor Tom Neal over prior to this, over their mutual love of Barbara Payton,
yes,
and he got his nose, like they had a fight on her lawn. He got his nose broken, his cheek broken, and a concussion from thuggish actor Tom Neal from Detour. I can't help but always bring that up whenever he comes up, because I don't know, I'm fascinated.
I'm so glad you did. And he was married to
Joan Crawford. Joan Crawford.
Yeah.
I mean, this poor guy, I think through the years, literally got cuckolded so many times publicly. And he looks like a guy that would be cuckolded.
And you know what, though? He is kind of great in this, though. I mean, he gives an edgy performance. I don't know if it's a exactly brilliant performance, but in the context of it, I think it works really, really well.
Right. And rubbing up against Cummings, Everyman, it works, I think, in a lot of ways. And again, I really do want to ping pong back and forth, because of course, Lee J. Cobb plays the role in the Fonda film. And I've got a good shot of angry Lee J. Cobb. Where the hell have I got that? There he is. And of course, then George C. Scott plays it in the 90s film. And again,
they just get more and more cartoonishly angry as each still comes up.
Hey, man. But the great thing, again, is the role changes in the hands of all these really good actors.
Yeah.
Francois Tone has kind of a country club attitude that you can't help, I think, just given his the way he looks facially a lot of times. And it's just like, what am I doing here? Whatever.
Yeah.
Lee J. Cobb is much more intense as well. And yeah, George C. I really love that 97 movie, and I urge so many people to see it as well, because in a lot of ways it's like a last great performance from Jack Lemmon, from George C. Scott, a couple of these old timers and stuff.
Yeah, Hume Cronin. Yeah,
Hume
right,
Cronin.
yeah.
Hugh Cronin, absolutely. Good Lord. And, again, you go back to the original with
Joseph Sweeney.
Joseph Sweeney.
Joseph Sweeney, who's the part along with George Vostek, or I'm not sure how to say it. They're the only two who carry over from the TV show to the movie. But I think that Joseph Sweeney's performance is so memorable and so, it just really stands out both in the TV version and in the movie. It's and it takes some interesting little adjustments too. I mean, it's interesting to look at at the ones where the same performer is playing it twice, because the way that they've adjusted the performance and the way they've adjusted the script kind of stand out even more.
Agreed, but I also think it is awesome that they kept those guys in those roles because they are so great. I can't believe it. Sweeney. Here's a Sweeney solo coming up. There he is. Yeah, I mean, he's so perfect, and as is Hugh Cronin, 40 years later when he's doing the Showtime film version of it. But man, George Vostok also really has this wonderful turn from being a soft-spoken, dignified man to his confrontations with in the TV version Paul Douglas, and later Jack Warden in the film version, because a lot of these guys just don't want to be bothered with this court case, and Paul Douglas in particular, Emmett from Mayberry, has got theater tickets and really doesn't give a damn about this guy, and so wants to give up so early in the process. And finally, as more evidence that Cummings brings up is laid out there, Douglas isn't. At first, it seems Douglas isn't convinced. He's just like, "Hey, I changed my vote. I'm out of here." And all of a sudden, George Vostok is like, "Hey, this is a man's life. What are you doing?" And just has this great intense moment after being so meek and polite. And it's like, "No, fuck you. I'm not letting you go. This is a guy's life we're talking about. Tell me why."
Yeah, and he's really challenging him from the opposite direction that the Bob Cummings character is, right? He's challenging him on changing his opinion, like frivolously changing his vote, like to acquit him, right? And it's just I think that's a really interesting dynamic in there. And I also just like, I mean, one of the things I like a lot about this, just as a kind of conceit, with the jury of it all, is that it's like the central conflict of it is like about reasonable doubt, right? It's not about it is about whether this kid lives or dies, right? But the question they're always wrestling with is not it's an ephemeral idea, reasonable doubt, right? It's not, it's not the concrete thing. It's about, do we doubt something? And I just think that that's something about that is part of what makes this thing kind of perpetually interesting and perpetually restageable, because it's not, if it were more specific, if the case was a lot more specific, the whole thing would date a lot easier than it does, and there are elements of it that date over the different iterations of it, certainly in the 90s one. But I do think that, and clearly in the earlier ones too, there's very dated aspects of it. But I guess the biggest one would be there are 12 men, right? And there are no women, right? And and so that's certainly not something that anybody would do now. But
and in fact, they have adjusted it, and now it is 12 Angry Jurors. I've also seen and in fact, I've got a great clip of Jack Klugman talking about the film experience of making the movie, and he even points out that Reginald Rose adjusted the script in 12 Angry Women.
Sure.
And I've even got a still of 12 Angry Women performing it. And again, that's the thing, man. It's really character types that you can attribute to any gender or race, for that matter. In fact, the racist from the original version, Edward Arnold, late in his career, showing that he can still step up to the plate and hit a home run.
Great job. And
love that.
And you know what? Like, I just, because of the, the fucking garbage world that we live in right now, I was actually weirdly and unexpectedly affected. No matter how many, I've seen these versions of him many times, but when he goes on his like racist rant in this thing, like I found it weirdly affecting and emotional, And I mean, as I've said on other episodes, I only really cry, during Star Trek, but like I still got I got a little choked up over that, even though I do think that the weak thing about, about both the this and the particularly this and the 57 movie is the staging of people getting up and turning their backs. I mean, it's just so contrived, and it just feels like it's too much, and it always feels like they could have done something more subtle and interesting with that, but which undermines it a little bit. But I do think it's very effective.
Well, and again, Michael Williamson, who was Bubba in Forrest Gump,
that's right,
plays the racist in 1997, a man of color, and is they kind of trot out that he was a former black Muslim, but his opinions differed from the black Muslim church. And I mean, again, his denouncement of those people is just as powerful as Edward Arnold. And then, of course, one of our favorites, he comes up again, Ed Begley Sr.
Yeah, no, he from Patterns, he was a pretty fucking great actor. And I do think that in the 1997 version, it's a little bit like, I feel like it's a little bit forced, the recasting of the race aspects of it. I don't think that plays as well today as it maybe did in 1997, but that's my opinion. I don't know. It just it doesn't quite work for me as well. I get it. It makes sense, but it feels
racism is universal. Forgive me for.
The three white people on this panel are not going to solve racism. So I do think that Friedkin in particular has a little bit too, he's a little too fast and loose with the heavy-handedness in a lot of his work. This is my opinion of him as a director. I'm not saying it's a bad adaptation. It's full of great actors. It has a lot of really, there's tons of good value in it. I just do think that aspect of it feels a little too contrived for me.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, that's cool.
Whatever. We can disagree about it, John. You can like it, and
I'm forgive me, but yeah, I like that we disagree about it.
Do we know? I should say, do we know whose idea it was? Because Reginald Rose was still alive in '97.
Yes.
He wrote the Showtime version too.
Yes,
so I think it might have been.
It could entirely come from Reginald Rose. That's absolutely true. Yeah, we don't know.
Actually, as I understand it, because my friend who I haven't seen in 15 years, that's kind of what happens, especially when your friend is a busy actor. William Peterson is in the 97 version, and of course plays the advertising man. Let's run it up the flagpole and see who salutes. Well, back then, this is before he got CSI, and he was a good friend and would come to our sports radio station because he's a massive sports fan. He was based in Chicago actor, and could not be more excited. And it's like, you got to hear what I'm doing, especially you, John, because you're an old movie fan. We're going to do a revival of 12 Angry Men on Showtime. And we're like, that's amazing. And he's like, Jack Lemmon got beat out for the movie rights by Henry Fonda back in the 50s. And it has been literally gnawing at him for 40 years. And so it was Jack Lemmon, based, I'm assuming, on The Power of Grumpy Old Men and a few other things, that was having this great third act of his career. And, I'm sure Showtime's like, whatever you want to do. And Friedkin, the combination of them, they're the ones who wanted to do it. Friedkin loves William Peterson. And that's why he got
to Live and Die in L.A.
Live and Die in L.A. It's great.
Absolutely. So they're the reasons why it happened. And let's just really fast, because I wrote down, it's like it was like a crossword puzzle connecting everybody. So Jack Lemmon, you've got in the Bob Cummings, Henry Fonda role. George C. Scott in the Francois Tone, Lee J. Cobb role. Armin Müller-Stuhler, the great German actor.
Armin Müller-Stahl, yeah.
However say it, Armin Müller-Stahl, thank you. Jingleheimer Schmidt, I'll be rude. He great character actor. He plays the Walter Abel, E.G. Marshall role, the guy with the glasses. And that's one of the clues that leads him to believe reasonable doubt. Of course, Joe Sweeney and Hume Cronin played the Joe Sweeney role. As I said, Michael Williamson is the militant racist, if you will. Tony Danza plays the part that's played by Phil Hartman and Jack
Warden.
Paul Hartman, not Phil Hartman, Paul Hartman and Jack Warden. Yeah, he's the guy with the tickets. And again, Danza is even great in this working class role. And hey man, I'm the first one to make fun of Tony Danza, the man who, do you mind if you call the character Tony? I might respond better if it's Tony. So let's call him Juror Tony, shall we?
Yeah.
He's not bad. He's not bad.
Well, and like I said, he and Edward James Olmos have the immigrant, tough guy confrontation. And it is so fascinating to compare Paul Hartman, Jack Warden, and Tony Danza because they're all earnest in their thing. Paul Hartman is Emmett, and I don't know,
absolutely. And one of these actors is a great one, and it's Jack Warden. But I do. I mean, I think everybody did Paul Hartman from the original one did a fine job with it, and everybody did a good job with it. I mean, maybe not Tony Danza, but
Can I finish the cast real fast? I'm sorry, I went on.
Please keep going.
So Courtney B. Vance is the foreman, as is Norman Fell and Martin Balsam. Edward James Olmos is the immigrant. James Gandolfini, right before The Sopranos, makes this movie. And he is in the Ed Binns, Bart Burns role. Although I believe that some lines might be adjusted for various people, because I also identified Gandolfini with the Jack Klugman role, which was played. And also, all right, so Klugman is a guy from the neighborhood, kind of resents some of the racist things because he grew up in a slum. What am I, garbage? That kind of thing. And I think Gandolfini does the same thing. They combine their roles a lot with Ed Binns from the movie, who's sympathetic to Joe Sweeney and as an old man, and it's like, hey, the old man's talking, let the old man talk, shut up, and really giving him the agency he needs to kind of give his case. Robert Weber and Bill Peterson play the ad agents, madman from Madison Avenue and everything, and Lauren Ford played the role in the TV version. And finally, and I think sadly in the 97 version, you got Ozzie Davis, who says next to nothing in this version. And John Fiedler, the great little mousy character actor, we know he was Vinny in the Odd Couple film. He plays Jack the Ripper in that excellent episode of Star Trek, Wolf in the Fold. Great. And John Beale played it in the TV version. And by the way, and I've got a photo of him because you have to look fast to catch him. Vincent Gardenia in the original TV version.
I was going to bring that up. Yeah, from Moonstruck and everything. Yeah, he's barely in it, but it's but very noticeable when you know who he is.
Yep, there he is. So, but again, I mean, really, I think it's. I think the Friedkin one has again an incredible cast that brings their own style to it and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. No, there's no question it's an incredible cast. One of the things, I mean, so back to the TV version, is directed by Franklin Schaffner, who, as we all know, directed Patton, and I don't know what it was, Planet of the Apes, right?
Oh yeah. I won't break for ape talk, but
yeah, I don't think we have time for ape talk in this episode, but he and I think that he does a pretty, he obviously is one of these directors who came up out of live TV into features, and is a little less known for that than your Frankenheimer, Arthur Penn, Sidney Lumet's of it all, and Sidney Lumet then directed the feature version of this. Yeah. But I mean, I think that he does a really good job in an interesting situation where we have 12 actors in a very small space, and it seems like it should be quite simple, but the way that he moves the camera and very thoughtfully stages everything, while still having to deal, I mean, what you had to contend with was this very small space with 12 actors in it, right? So they would have to, this has to be choreographed, not just for who's in front of the camera, but for the other actors to get out of the way of the camera when it's getting into that set. It's a 3-wall set, and and with the cameras on one side, but we are moving in and around that little, jury room and table and everything. Although there are some very clunky missed camera cues in this as well.
So the biggest one, I suspect you gents notices as well. So one of the most iconic moments of the film is when they put the switchblade on the table, and then Henry Fonda has a switchblade that he got. So they do that in the show, but it's pretty clear that the camera missed the beginning of Bob Cummings' move, or Bob Cummings missed the cue. I don't know which is which. And so you just get Bob Cummings at the end of him putting down the knife, and I suspect people watching this at the time not having any idea this is the first time this this story has been told. They're like, what happened? Did he it does. It's one of the strangest. You can see how like we think of flubs as like flubbed lines, but like camera cues is such a part of this storytelling.
Yeah, and
it is a science.
It also, like, when you think back to the Frankenheimer comedian that we talked about, just how masterful that was with with the camera becomes very apparent.
Camera guys, apparently one was at the helm.
Camera 2, that guy was a piece of shit on that thing.
And Frankenheimer will not let it go.
but generally, they did a very masterful job. And and this is a sort of simpler setup, and there are several miscues through it, but it's still, and that was actually one of the things that stood out to me the first time I saw this. I think that I probably watched the live TV version the first time with that Studio One DVD set that came out that's sitting behind Ian, and a few years ago. But and I mean, at the time I thought, oh well, it's not as good as the movie. It's kind of clunky. It doesn't quite work in some ways, but I did think that I was more impressed with it this time, and I was more impressed. One of the comparisons with the movie that I think worked better in this was the lack of score, the fact that it was just the the city noises that were propelling it. Because when I went from watching this live version to watching the movie, all of a sudden the score in the movie felt like it was hit me over the head all the time. Like it felt way too much. And I hadn't really thought about it in those terms before.
Ironic too, because it is a very minimalist score in terms of just that sad trumpet.
Yeah. Well,
right. No, you're right, man. It's, I mean, again, it's of the time. I mean, I could think of, television and film that would make that music choice as well.
Right.
And
but
also,
I mean, I think that the instructive version of that is the difference between television and film at the time. Like that, that they were in some ways making more compromises for the audience, more compromises to be liked in the film than they were in the TV show. Particularly, I mean, I don't want to jump to the end of this, but I think that there's, that at the end of the TV version, something that I think John may like less, but I really responded to this time around, was that it's left ambiguous exactly how the last juror is going to vote, and there's a little sort of confrontation between Cummings and French Otone over the knife that's left very ambiguous, and the fact that on TV they were able to have the guts to go with something that didn't underline everything, and in the movie they couldn't. They intended, I mean, the Reginald Rose script intended to deal with it in a similar fashion in the film version, but I think that it just didn't play well for people, and so the insecurity of feature films made them go back and kind of adjust it and make things clearer, give people something more definitive to hold on to, because they could on live TV they couldn't go back. So they committed to something that was a lot, in a way, a lot bolder to me.
Ian, did you think the final juror, Francois Tone, was ambiguous in what he was going to do?
Yeah, well, we should say one of the biggest difference, most notable difference from the movie is the fact that juror number 3 does not get this monologue at the end that, Lee J. Cobb and George C. Scott have these very emotional monologues where it's clear they're talking about their son. That character is estranged from their son.
Yes.
That doesn't happen in this at all. He just says, "All right." And after a strange scene where the back of his head takes up most of the frame, which I've never seen on television in my life.
It feels like, was that was that a mistake, or was it like an incredibly fucking bold move? I'm not sure. I kind of liked it.
Go on, Ian, and please, that's kind of there.
Yeah, I thought that was just like a time-saving thing. But when they come back to the knife confrontation, which is such a big moment in all versions, the fact that it's sort of he's juror number 3, Tone, is pointing this knife at him. That's such a sinister ending, as opposed to the empathetic, humanistic ending that we think about of juror number 8 putting the coat back on Lee J. Cobb. I was so amazed by that. I should say what was on my mind was that they'll come back the next day, because here's the thing about 12 Angry Men. Deliberating for 1 day for a murder 1 case, that's actually not that rare. It takes several days. Yeah. So I thought basically either it would come back with a hung jury, because we never hear the verdict in the TV version, or they would come back the next day, to say this fight, if you want to think of it in a metaphorical sense, this fight isn't over.
But it is leaving it unanswered, essentially. Is what
I and maybe because I was, influenced by watching the film first, I felt it was more of a resignation because, they're all, Sweeney is, just as he said at the beginning about, I think Robert Cummings has a lot of courage to be the one man that dissents. It comes back around. And it's well, you're the only one. And Sweeney once again says it takes a lot of guts for only one man to dissent. And he literally says, all right. So in my opinion, I think he is bullied and maybe doesn't really believe it, but it will go along with the group in terms of fine. And
right, but I just think that scene after it, the scene with the knife and and that kind of weird confrontation that that sort of potentially violent bringing back the potential violence of the knife. Like Ian was talking about, it kind of it throws that part into question a little bit, and certainly a lot more than in the the later movie versions, where you get the catharsis from that character. Right? We don't get any catharsis from this character. Absolutely, so it's still left with the kind of anger and the that edginess, right? That that the film versions, I think, treat much more softly.
Completely agree with that, but it's and again, this is the great thing about art. We're open to interpretation.
Definitely, yeah.
And in my mind, the crowd has swayed Tone to at least go along with him, even if he doesn't believe it himself. But again, I love all these choices.
Yeah, I think that's great, though. I think that it's great that I'm not even great that we can disagree about it, but great, which I love to disagree with you, John. But I feel like what's great about it is that they were able to leave something open to interpretation, right? I don't feel like the film is open to interpretation.
Completely agree.
Right? And so I think that's the boldness that I'm talking about, that there's an ambiguity to it, that we can look at it from different ways, and it doesn't underline it in the same way.
No, definitely. And again, I mean, I these casts are so great. Martin Balsam as the foreman.
Yeah.
Okay, now here, fucking hell. I think that Martin Balsam was one of the greatest actors of his generation. I think that guy is so criminally underrated as an actor. Every performance he gives just has something more to it. He's bringing so much while not being heavy-handed to his little monologue scene about being the baseball coach or whatever. like that could be lousy in somebody else's hands.
Yeah.
And he deals with it so deftly. I just am always so impressed by him.
I agree. No, he brings an everyman quality to every role. Good Lord, even as shitty as Archie Bunker's place was, he was Archie's partner in the first season and doing his attempt at watered down All in the Family sort of comedy drama, but brings it. And no, I love Martin.
But also in I don't know, Psycho as Arbogast, like, which another thing which really could be kind of a nothing role. And and I think Martin Balsam is the one who brings a depth to that character that's not on the page.
Well, and as G. Corojo says, great and I was about to say it as well, great in The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3.
And there's nothing not great about The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3. So
one of the greatest endings of all time, and really not to offend all the Richard Anderson fans out there, but for me, Martin Balsam will always be Oscar Goldman.
Actually, he was Rudy Wells.
Oh wait, which one was he? Yes, Rudy Wells.
He was the doctor.
Kojak was Oscar Goldman.
So. But again, yeah, you're right about that. Yeah, in the original $6 Million Man pilot, that's definitely Martin Balsam. Jack Warden again, so great. But I love the contrast of Tony Danza and Paul Hartman doing these same roles. Also, Jack Klugman. And why don't we play while we're talking for a moment about Jack Klugman? I managed to grab this from the people that make the television archives. I always talk about how great these oral histories
I think the Jack Klugman interview is my favorite of all of those TV archive things. That guy is just kind of amazing.
And to put a little context in there, Klugman had throat cancer and had to have one of his vocal cords removed. And he really was convinced he would never perform again. And thankfully, his friend, Tony Randall, would not give up on him and really, really pushed him. And he managed to do a couple roles here and there in the 90s, including working with Randall's stage company, the National Theater out of New York. He makes mention of that in context to 12 Angry Men. But here's Klugman from this. So that I just wanted to point out the vocal cord thing because his voice is a little raspy, but you understand him. And here he is talking about the experience of making 12 Angry Men.
I would say when I did 12 Angry Men, I have a scene where I talk about the dagger. I was quivering so much. You say the camera doesn't lie. It's not true. If it showed how I really felt, you'd have seen panic. But it wasn't. And Fonda was looking at me like, what's the matter with you? Because on stage I was so free, but in front of that camera, even today.
Why is that?
I don't know. I'm just scared. It's foreign to me. It's like Big Brother's watching me or something. I don't know what the hell it is.
Well, you mentioned 12 Angry Men. That was in 1957. That's a feature film.
Well, that's when it came out.
Yeah.
But we did it in 56. Yeah.
Well, tell me how you were hired to do that.
That's what I said. I was too young. I was too old for the part. But Henry Fonda got me the part. Now I know. And that's the best picture I ever made. That was the most fun I ever had making a movie. We couldn't wait to go to rehearsal. We rehearsed for 2 weeks. Couldn't wait. Every day of that shoot, everybody was there. There was never a day of the 4 weeks of shooting that one of the 12 people were not there. We were all there off camera for the other person. Everybody. It was a labor of love like I've never seen. You laughed every day. You listened to stories from Lee Cobb, from Ed Begley. Oh, it was wonderful. Ed Begley come all the time. He'd have a young girl with him. It was his niece. Your niece? How many nieces you have? As many as I need. Oh, I love this man. That was great. Joe Sweeney. What an actor.
And Reginald Rose wrote the script. Was he there?
Sure, Reggie was the producer. He didn't take any money. He did that picture for $500,000. And it never got its money back until they made it into a play called 12 Angry Women. And it was done at all these PTA meetings and community theaters. And then Reggie started to make some money. Now it became a successful play. And in fact, Tony and I are thinking about doing it.
Oh, you are?
Here at the National Actors Theater next year.
Oh, so this will be a feature for next year?
Yeah, we're thinking about it.
That's great.
Yeah, I was really surprised to learn that the feature version wasn't successful when it came out. Like we just know it as this classic movie, but that people didn't show up for it. United Artists had made a film out of Paddy Chayefsky's Marty that was a live TV thing, and then that was successful and Oscars and shit, and and that this one really wasn't successful. But I think it's kind of a better movie. Certainly, it's Sidney Lumet's first movie after being, prolific live TV director, and then he went on to have like an unbelievable career. And the way that he approaches it, Lumet approaches the feature version is really interesting and very different from the way that they shot the live TV version. The feature is very much in cuts. It's very like. It's about static shots that progress over the course of it and get tighter and tighter and cuttier and cuttier and as opposed to the kind of fluid camera of the live TV version. The contrast between them are really interesting.
I've got a couple of stats here regarding the film. As you say, yes, it did perform poorly at the box office. Critically, it obviously gave a lot of good reviews, but Roger Ebert listed it as one of his great movies. The AFI named Fonda's character 28th in a list of the 50 greatest movie heroes of the 20th century. They also named it the 42nd most inspiring film, the 88th most heart-pounding film, and the 87th best film of the past 100 years. It was nominated for the 100 movie list in 98. And the second most screened film in secondary schools in the United Kingdom. 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. I mean,
that's why we all think of it as this classic that was probably super successful at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a little surprising, but I mean, I guess it's also it was a sort of low budget movie that all took place in one room, so I mean, it's an art movie in a lot of ways.
If you look up the posters for 12 Angry Men at the time, they're not selling the movie that it is. Mm-hmm. Like it says like life is in their hands, death is on their minds, which is true.
That is true.
Is not untrue, but it's
but they sound like like it's the Dirty Dozen or something.
Yeah. Also says it explodes like 12 sticks of dynamite. Which is probably the only time John Fielder, the voice of Piglet, is compared to a stick of dynamite. But
well, you didn't know him in his personal life.
Yeah.
But again, it's these actors bringing themselves to the roles that elevate the roles, because again, John Beale and Ozzie Davis have the same role as John Fiedler, and they're nothing in the movie. But man, Ozzie Davis, I mean, what a giant of an actor, literally and figuratively, and really give. I mean, I don't know, maybe he was not well. I think
he was also a little miscast, right? I mean, I don't think that was a great role for him. I mean, I think that was also a little bit like, you're casting somebody who, in a part that previously was the meek and mild guy, but you're casting a guy with an enormous amount of gravitas who's then kind of pulling that back, and that could be a great a great energy to bring to something, and it just didn't quite work, I think.
And E.G. Marshall, Jekuro brings him up. And again, Walter Abel plays him in the TV version, and I think effectively. But man, E.G. Marshall is just so patrician and
he is really good in that. And he's also involved in one of the biggest changes between the two. That's not just an addition. The thing about the glasses, because I mean, I think that one of the weaker moments of the live TV version is making that connection between the eyewitness who was wearing glasses, right? Like where they didn't realize she wore that, they didn't think through the part where if she was waking up and looking, out the window or whatever, she would have needed to put on her glasses to know that it was the defendant who was running out of the building. And in the TV version, it's about, one of the characters, like with his glasses off, asking, what time it is. And it's a little clunky. I do think that the version in the film is slightly clunky as well. That I mean, it's good. You know, the making the you're making the point that you know that you know, you have the little marks on your nose when you wear glasses or whatever. Is not bad. That's an interesting approach to it. It feels slightly less incredible that they would be noticing that from across the room. But you know, and also we go into a pretty dubious misogynistic sort of thing about, you know, women looking, you know, like women not, you know, and vanity and stuff that gets them to that point in the movie. Both of them are slightly weird, but I think that the movie version is kind of like a better version, a less clunky version of it.
No, I agree, and you're right. I mean, absolutely, there are a lot of comments that don't play well in today's context. I have noticed that mostly when this is performed, they don't try to modernize it like they did in '97, and they do keep it in the '50s. There's a great radio play version of this that LA Theater Works did, and I love LA Theater Works audio productions. And of all people, John Delancey, Q from Star Trek, directed it, and actually even at the beginning of the performance plays the judge that gives the instructions and stuff. And Richard Kind is the Jack Warden, Paul Hartman, Tony Danza role. And and he, you know, oh, a dame like that, you know, and I mean, just that kind of, and it's great because you hear Richard Kind, but also Dan Castellaneta is in the audio version. Hector Elizondo is in the audio version. Joe Spano, again, another really interesting group of character actors that perform the hell out of it.
Yeah, and why are these all, why is the casting always so interesting? Because you can cast character actors in these things, right? I mean, apart from Fonda in the you know, in the movie, for the most part, they're always character actors. So like you get the opportunity to have interesting actors playing parts as opposed to just, you know, muscly guys named Chris, you know, like it's like that, you know, like it's something we don't get to see that much anymore.
I do want to see 12 angry Chris's.
12 muscly Chris's.
I want Tony Danza to come back and have it be 12 angry Tonys myself. Oh no, wait, this guy's Tony.
So it's Tony Danza, Tony Franciosa, I don't
Tony
know.
Martin.
Tony
Sure.
Martin.
Absolutely.
Tony Randall.
Tony Randall, definitely.
Tony Randall could be the Francois Toe character.
Yeah.
Perfect casting.
Look at him. Well, and again, you mentioning Tony Randall and the fact that Klugman and he were considering doing it on stage. That Odd Couple episode is absolutely a fantastic parody of 12 Angry Men, and it's from the first season. And supposedly, it's the backstory of how Felix and Oscar meet, which I find interesting. But I know Ian in particular loves one parody of this, and of course, it was done on Amy Schumer's show.
Yes, because actually, honestly, that also has a great cast list. If you look, like the fact that it's Jeff Goldblum as the foreman, John Hawkes as juror number 8, Paul Giamatti, like you would want to see them in an actual version of 12 Angry Men.
Yes.
But then they play this ridiculous version, but they play it all straight.
Well, and shot for shot. I mean, I love the comparisons that I found of the film and the Schumer version and stuff. And yeah, it's terrific. So yeah,
I'm sure it is. I've been working on this movie for 16 months straight, and it's still like really, really busy work. Like there's a lot of work to do. I didn't quite get to it. I watched 36 Angry Men over this week, right?
Yeah, we didn't even get to the Russian version.
Yeah, I know. We didn't even mention the Russian version. I would have loved to get to that too. Actually, I was planning on it. I wish that I had. We'll have to have a bonus episode all about the Russian version.
It's called 12.
It's just 12, yeah.
And Ebert loved it back in, I think, 2009 and gave it a very glowing review. No, again, and 12 Angry Women. And as I mean, and again, in modern performances, they do diversify the jury by gender as well, and you do see women in there, and of course, 12 Angry Women. And again, I think it's wonderful that this is how strong this material is. And then truly, as I said, a fifth grader cast can perform this, I think, effectively. I don't know if the parents would be happy about them doing it, and I'd love to see the fifth grade that has to play
it's
Bugsy Malone version of 12 Angry Men,
right? Or the Albert Brooks Death of a Salesman, all portrayed by children. Yeah,
absolutely. The way they smell, the way they cook, they're different from us. Come on, you can see it. Jimmy is very alone at the playground ever since playing the racist in 12 Angry Children. I got to find the juror number for that character again. God damn it, where is it?
That is juror number 10.
Thank you. Well done. Mom, Dad, I'm juror number 10 in 12 Angry Men. Billy will be talking to your school later in the afternoon. He's not playing juror number 10. Fine, we'll get the gym teacher to play number 10. Don't worry.
No. Wait, just a bunch of kids and one gym.
Yeah, yes,
that's that version.
Look at them, the way they smell, the way they live.
Yeah.
Everyone hates Mr. Lanners now. I don't understand why.
All right. Well, the one thing that I wanted to talk about that weirdly we haven't talked about at all is Henry Fonda. Who there is no question Henry Fonda was a movie star and a great actor both. And and yet I think it's a little bit of a disservice to the and I didn't ever thought this before, honestly, until watch even the Jack Lemmon version, doesn't feel like a movie star who has that level of built-in kind of partly because he's older at the point where he's playing it, but there is so much built-in kind of like liberal gravitas to Henry Fonda that it almost is too much for the role. Like it almost feels like he's ahead of where we're going compared to not that Bob Cummings gives the greatest performance in the world. He doesn't, but something about just having somebody who's a little more ambiguous about where they would be coming from, I thought added to it in an interesting way. That said, Henry Fonda, I'm not criticizing Henry Fonda. He was like the greatest. It's just, but still,
But I can see him playing it that way because he comes to the jury room with the other Switchblade. They make a big deal about the blade being so unique and everything, and then Henry Fonda plops it down. So I think his reasonable doubt obviously begins early, before the movie starts.
Right. I'm just talking about works. All I'm talking about is the audience preconception. I mean, this is maybe a little bit less the case if you're just like a younger person who's never seen anything else with him in it, but the audience preconception of him playing those kind of characters informs
Tom Joad and
it informs the role in a way that's almost like it overtakes that character a little bit more than somebody like Bob Cummings, who you don't have the preconceptions about his own thing.
You're right, although politically they were opposed to each other, but I would imagine Jimmy Stewart would have the same problem of, well, of course, it's my dad, it's Henry Fonda. I'd follow him through a brick wall. So
right. If it was James Stewart, in real life, I'm not even talking about their real life thing, but just their personas in film. So
they're heroic personas. I know
and Stewart would have that kind of Mr. Smith of it all, and you'd bring those kind of preconceptions to it. And I think that and I'm actually almost talking about the fact that he's a movie star. Like if John Wayne played this role, he couldn't. But if John Wayne played this role, you wouldn't come into it with the preconceptions. It would be playing against type, and it might be a little more.
I don't know. Well, Jimmy's with you, and then also now Jikuro is being cute, and points out the one evil role that Henry Fonda had once upon a time in the West.
Yeah.
Take a seat, Jikuro.
We got it. Yeah, we know. You've seen some movies. We got it. Okay.
Congratulations. Absolutely, man. No, but come on, man.
Very much appreciate you contributing. I'm just being
and I do too. But you threw it out there, Jikuro, so I had to put it up and say, come on. But that said, no. But again, this is what makes it interesting. Even all right, Jikuro's laughing too, and I'm glad. Thank you, man.
Good.
Good deal. We love that you're here every week, man.
Yes.
I know, and seriously, that It's great. So many of you that are regulars that are showing up to Kinescope. We really appreciate it. Honestly, I get great. I shared a text that I got on Instagram to Gabe this week, and so many people are really enjoying what we're trying to do, and that's very heartfelt because regardless, we're going to talk about it. We don't care.
Yeah, but this is
for the ride.
This is seemingly obscure, sort of like, it can sound difficult from the outside, and yet these things are all pretty damn entertaining. And I think that, and I'm just glad, I just want to, so much of this is about, 12 Angry Men is the most accessible of it all. But I mean, we just want to do this show because people don't talk about this stuff that much,
Absolutely, man. I think we're at an interesting point. In fact, we should have done this before we started the show, but I want to throw out there because we have been so heavy-handed lately with some of our choices that we do a comedy next week. And I am open to. I mean, I've got a suggestion sitting here, but if you guys have thought,
John, you're picking it because I didn't even think about this before.
Oh, no worries.
Honestly, so what are we doing next week, John?
We could pitch underhand and really get into the Honeymooners because it is a great classic example of live TV and just the different ways they did it from what are called the Lost Honeymooner episodes, which are the Kinescopes before and after the classic 39 that looks like it's film quality. And we could talk about the reason why that classic 39 episode run was so widely syndicated and forever was the only version of the Honeymooners that was out there. But to compare it to the live performances and talk about it in general.
Okay.
Because,
and are these live performances accessible someplace where people can see them?
That's a fair question. I think I kind of figured that the Honeymooners is so like I Love Lucy that it's been on television for 70 years.
Yeah, but I mean, if we're going to watch specific episodes, will people
but that's what I'm saying. I would rather talk about the Honeymooners in general, and not talk about a specific episode because there's no need. I don't
know. I mean, I feel like I would need to revisit stuff. I mean, I watched all of these when I was younger, but I haven't seen them in a million years.
Well,
so
I'm about to let you know because I'm going on YouTube and doing a Honeymooners search.
Okay, just so everyone knows, at hour 104, we started a production meeting that really shouldn't be broadcast, and but look, it's a little behind the scenes glimpse for all of you people, all of you fans of Kinescope.
Who cares? I mean, it's fine. It's fine that we're talking about this. There are single episodes and montages of the Honeymooners. I think the performances are, there's a reason why he did it for several years. It was a sitcom. We haven't done a sitcom yet. And it's an enduring sitcom.
I'll be excited. I'm excited to take a look at something very different, that's not so, self-serious and, important and stuff.
Well, and again, it was, it's funny. Chikura's never seen any Honeymooners episodes except that Flintstones one.
How much of the show are we going to take up talking about the Flintstones? That's what I want to know.
We could absolutely talk it. Well, much like the 12 Angry Men adaptations over the years. Why not? But again,
it'll be a good reason to revisit all of this stuff.
Yeah. So, Steve Ernest says he loves these peeks behind the scenes. It's almost like a tabloid.
Look, if you had any idea how much John and I fight off camera, or at least off when we're not recording,
there's that big of a fucking difference between what we're doing now.
At times, it's upsetting to our guests. I'm just gonna say it. So just
you folks are just lucky that the presence of Sidney Lumet did not lead us to Jenny Lumet and talking about new Star Trek. You
holy shit!
You are so lucky.
Ian, what the hell?
I thought I was flirting with disaster mentioning John Delancey and John.
Oh my God! You're trying to sabotage this whole thing. We're going to go down this whole new Star Trek road. All right, we're done. Next week we're going to talk about the Honeymooners. We'll decide and put it out there on Twitter and the like if we're going to talk about anything specific Honeymooner episode wise. And So that'll be a very interesting, different road to take with this, and I'm looking forward to it.
I hope everybody joins us. It's always great to see everybody chiming in. Thank you for the excellent questions, and Look, Gabe and I care, and that's why we're happy to argue about what we do.
That's why we fight.
And truly, no, but that's good, man. Hey, coming from sports radio, I think it's entertaining as hell. So
it's much like 12 Angry Men. It comes from passion.
Yes, absolutely. So, and 12, 13, 14, 15 Angry Men plus all the other Angry Men. I've lost count, but there were a lot of Angry Men involved this time.
Square roots.
Yes.
It's going to get messy, guys.
Too complicated. I only took checkbook math, and that's where I topped out. So I don't know.
Absolutely. So we go to the moon next week, Alice, on the Honeymooners on the next Kinescope. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Take care. Bye-bye.
Our report details how advertising through television transforms strangers to your product into acquaintances, and acquaintances into friends, and friends into customers. You could almost say, as a result, that television puts into every living room a selling machine.